something, or because now.
And we're live. Hi, I'm Dazza Greenwood, a scientist at MIT Media Lab and in New York, and we're jumping in with Beth McCarthy at Starfish Mission, who's leading a mechanism design regular Tuesday workshop. And Beth was just going to kind of help us understand how mechanism design could be applied to this open media initiative and part of that distributed event series. And I don't know, maybe Beth, you could also continue. You were just starting to do a little kind of recap on what we've done in San Francisco before. So we're live.
So yeah, what we did on Thursday, which was this legal.io event for SF Blockchain Week about like governance and public policy and like legal compliance and how it impacts blockchain in general. We started talking about the specific problem that's posed by the this like open media legal hackathon, which is looking at identity mechanisms for rights holders and creatives to control works and also, I guess, get equitable payments and just basically having like a creator-centric ecosystem that also is, viable and incentive compatible, et cetera. So this has been a super useful example, I think, in general for looking at this really complex ecosystem that isn't working currently, but also is impacted by certain legal frameworks that are playing out right now. Like there's the Modernization Act. So that's like this law that was just passed. And yeah, maybe you could say a few words about that since the person who's joining us today wasn't here on Thursday, and like grounding that a little bit because you have a better explanation. And so looking at like the legal, business, and like computational, like technical issues that impact like creating mechanisms that actually are effective for empowering creators. So there's kind of these two separate things that we're like mapping out. So like, before we mapped out kind of the incentives for these different, the different parts of the ecosystem I mentioned, so creators, consumers, and distributors. And then today we'll take what we started understanding about the different incentives and pain points for each of those groups and actually testing some different models that might work. I know that you have like some that you're like interested in like mapping out, will these mechanisms actually work? Do they need a token, et cetera? So yeah, but yeah, if you could say a few words about the Modernization Act, I think that would be, and just kind of the hackathon in general, I think that would be super helpful.
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to. Well, first of all, you can kind of get all the details at legalhackathon.org. And at a high level, this is part of a collaboration between Berklee College of Music and MIT to have a distributed series of creative events with legal hackers, a global meetup of attorneys and creatives to try to rapid prototype and generate some new innovative ideas that can help put musicians and other artists and composers, as well as performing artists and others, more in a position of ownership and control of their works, digital markets and ecologies. And the Music Modernization Act that Beth mentioned is important. Just a few days ago, Congress enacted a new law that was years in the making, and it creates some interesting opportunities for some creative solutions just now. The main thing it does is simplify and streamline how royalties can be paid to individual musicians and performing artists. It creates an industry collective called the Mechanical Licensing Collective, which has some representation from like distributors and producers and composers and others. They're empowered to collect money from people that want to use music. And then they're responsible for finding a way to get that money to the people that are owed royalties. Right now, that's very difficult to do. So our thinking was that this might be a perfect time to come up with some interesting new ways to have new business models and legal frameworks and technical architectures to simplify and streamline all that. Maybe get ahead of the law a little bit. The mechanism design method seems like a really good way to surface some of the opportunities. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Can I like start applying mechanism design to like I'm gonna add on to yours. So like currently it's like this act and like just like that. Like this. We just talk, right?
We've never had this particular model with like tying into what groups are doing elsewhere. So I don't know. Yeah, I think whatever we.
No, like because like
yeah.
The way you define is like you're like the goal sounds like we are just trying to upgrade the current system. But what mechanism design does is that like tries to understand what kind of assumptions we are making for a particular system, and then trying to like weed out all those assumptions and come up with the like the core of it, and then start building on top of that core. So like when we say, okay, like this act is happening and stuff, it's like totally out of the core. Because like think about it, like with these, like if it only works in US, it's not gonna make sense. Like the way we think about this stuff should be like, how can we make a network, or like how can we make a like peer-to-peer, whatever, open source that is not for like US but for everyone, and like without keeping our assumptions about like what is a digital right and like the creator and stuff. We can also apply like agent-centric design systems, and like come up with other stuff. So like when we define the mission like that, I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, it's
yeah, you can find the mission defined, through around the world at legalhackathon.org, and we're collaborating now to apply this mechanism design method to it. So take it away, Beth. Lead us.
Yeah. So we don't usually talk about like legal compliance in this workshop. It just so happens right now because it's a hackathon like put on by schools. Okay. So this particular workshop is a hackathon like where the problem space is defined by It's America within the purview of the Music Modernization Act.
Got it. But then
so those are design constraints for this particular hackathon.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's like it becomes like loopy because like if we are trying to apply this mechanism design thinking and stuff, it kind of like obscures itself.
Okay, so maybe we should terminate the broadcast at this point. If you could maybe just do a quick recap of kind of what happened on last time, and then you can go into more of this broader scope after we've shut off the broadcast. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So wait. So I guess last time we set out. This figuring out who the actors were, I guess. And on Saturday, I'll be in New York for the New York section of the hackathon, so we can go more into who the actors are in the ecosystem and talk about that, and also talk through the specific legal compliance issues, how it plays into the computational issues that face us, and just mapping out the entire system like within this like legal framework that the hackathon is based. But I would say, today, since the focus is less on like tying into the legal hackathon specifically, then we'll probably end there. But yeah, look forward to meeting a lot of you guys hopefully on Saturday. So definitely
this Saturday in New York City at the Bushwick Collective, and the following Sunday at MIT Media Lab, and like at 10 locations in between. You can find all of those at legalhackathon.org, and come hack with us. Thanks, Beth.
Bye-bye.